Jumpin In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And it's that time once more, jazz fans. It is a Saturday night, it's 9 o'clock. It's great to be here, as always, with you, celebrating some of the best sounds in modern and contemporary music in Jumpin' In with myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's show on a significant day in many ways, as it was this day in 1967 we said goodbye to the BBC Light programme, the third programme, and the Home Service, to be replaced with radios 2, 3 and 4 respectively, with the addition of Radio 1 for the young uns. And also on this day in 1960, the Flintstones first aired, but mainly because it's Jumpin' In Day. And can you believe it, we're already a third of the way through autumn. It was only summer 5 minutes ago, but we're back to business as usual, with the rain lashing the windows and the storm season underway, followed by calm and bright, clear days. Who knows? Now, I know last year we did say we'd try and match jazz artists to the names of the storms, and I could look around for an album called Rosenthal by Agnes Buengianes with Jan Gaborik, but I couldn't find it in time, so we'll keep that in mind for the future, see if we can dig out some jazz storm names. So H, what's been blowing up a storm for you this week, and what has becalmed you, leaving your windsock limp?
I will be continuing with the Tyshawn Sorey trio, his latest, and very enjoyable it is too. Something of a slightly different take, I would say, on the piano trio format, albeit led by a drummer, of course, and an old favourite we haven't done for a long time. There's a couple of our favourites we haven't done for a while, so same song, different artist, and one you'll know.
And for me, well, we go all the way. We're not 9, but we are 5 plus 4. We press start to stop, and to get us underway, we're home with Dan Mar Molinero. album from the brilliant debut Taproot, a big band project put together by the not-so-new kid on the block, Dan Molinero, new name to me, nonetheless. Dan has been over 20 years writing big band and is a saxophonist, educator, band leader with BAFTA-nominated film, game and TV scores to his name, as well as having a top 3 hit with one of the Spice Girls and many near misses. He's the principal teaching fellow at the University of Southampton and also runs Southampton Youth Jazz Orchestra. Busy boy. Taproot was Dan's lockdown project, he says, and is a band made up of ex-students and band members, all with a connection either to Dan or to Southport and education. And the project is, they're all friends of his as well, and many of them are now professional jazz musicians, with a couple of star appearances thrown in from Jasper Hoiby on one track and Julian Arguelles on another. The parts were all recorded remotely from a track that Dan sent out, and then he lovingly glued the whole lot together. Makes it sound straightforward, doesn't it? Taproot is out now on C. Miller Records or on all the popular streaming programmes, and very fine it is too.
Very fine indeed. Jumping in, Chris and H with you through until the top of the hour. A new one from Tyshawn Sorey I picked up on real CD. I still like the real format if we can. A while back when we were down at the wonderful Ray's Jazz in London on Pi Records. Tyshawn's been around for quite some time. One of these super musical drummers. And I think he is super musical. I think he can play all sorts of stuff and compose. And I believe he's got perfect pitch and all the rest of it. We've never met him. I've never seen him live, I think, yet. But we hopefully put that right at some stage and catch up with him if we can. He's got a few albums out under his own name, as well as playing quite often with the likes of VJ Ayer, and one of those drummers where he can just sort of skip from times to time to time in different styles, all within a beat, it seems sometimes. This one is a piano trio format, led by Tyshawn Sorey, of course, the Tyshawn Sorey Trio, with Aaron Deal on piano, Matt Brewer at the bass, and here they are on Wayne Shorter's Reincarnation Blues. Loving that. The more I listen to it, the more I enjoy it. All long tracks where they're stretching out quite a bit on this album. I mean, that track's over 10 minutes, and that is the shortest of the 4 tracks on the album. Tyshawn Sorey on drums, Aaron Deal piano, Matt Brewer bass. And it all has that sort of very measured, as you might well imagine being a drummer-led trio, very measured sort of feel about the whole thing. Nothing ever feels particularly rushed. There are some other more up-tempo tracks, but it's very rhythmic, perhaps not surprisingly, very measured, some very accurate on-the-nail drumming, nothing what I call sort of super flash or techno flash, where he's got fantastic chops, but he never goes out of his way to try and show his chops off. He's just sort of there and holding it all together without getting completely in the way. And that one just lopes away under its own steam for, I said, for a good 10 minutes without you ever getting bored. And he never does anything particularly flash, but it's most enjoyable indeed. Several out, like I said, very different from his last one, which I think was a live one we were saying as we were listening to that. Reincarnation Blues on the latest from Tyshawn Sorey. It's on Pi Recordings. The album's called Continuing.
I mean, his previous one is the Off-Broadway Guide to Synergism, which was the trio again, but with Greg Osby added to it. The tracks on there are 15, 20. There's one, I think, that comes in at under 10 minutes or 2. But no, great stuff. Very, very good indeed. Now, from me, another project born out of lockdown. A collective made up of 5 musicians, all of whom are band leaders in their own right, all lovers of hard bop. The 5 got together for a jam as lockdown restrictions began to ease, and that collaboration led to the establishment of Five Way Split. Here's an original of theirs dedicated to a shared hero out of Wayne's bag. Great sounding band with an original there penned by saxman Vasilis Xenopoulos, who's playing with Quentin Collins on trumpet and flugel, Rob Barron on the piano, Matthias Hofecker on double bass, and Matt Home at the drums. All lovers of hard bop, they originally built on a repertoire of material from Jimmy Heath, The Messengers, of course, Horace Silver, Cedar Walton, before developing a collection of original tracks. A great sounding back. It'd be a treat to see them live. They're actually touring at the moment, supporting the album release. Touring round, they were in, let's have a look. They were in East Molesey, of all places, last weekend. They were in Lincoln the week before. They were then playing at Jazz at the Parakeet. That's one to look out for, H. We'll have to try that club in London.
Sounds good to me.
It's another new one we don't know. That is in Kentish Town, and they say looking forward very much to Bracknell Jazz this weekend. And Bracknell has an active jazz club running, if not yet a festival again, so that would be something to look forward to. It'll be a treat to see them live. They have played at Ronnie's a couple of times, hoping that amongst their band commitments they can continue to grow this project. All the Way by Five Way Split is out now on Ubuntu Records, and many thanks to them for sending us a copy.
Indeed. Thank you to all the people who help with the programme, of course. Great to get these bits of music and new albums and singles and references to stuff coming up so we can feature it in advance and then hopefully whet your appetite so you can go out and buy a download if you must, a CD if you can, but we'll leave that one up to you.
A vinyl if you're rich enough.
Well, I know it's so much back in, but I didn't know I could afford it anymore, about 30 quid for a record now. But it is wonderful to see it still out there, it has to be said. Okay, here's, an oldie and an oldie, as it were. Something we haven't done for quite a long time on the programme. One of our little features, which we did quite a bit. We haven't done it for donkey's years. And it just popped up the other day. I heard one track and then I heard another. I thought, oh gosh, this is an ideal fit for this. Same track, different artist. And we haven't done one for a long time. Sit back and enjoy this one. 2 takes on a great old favourite of mine. And I think you'll recognise it as well.
Namu. 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 Ole papá do mar, ole papá do mar. Ole papá do mar, ole papá do mar.
Hi there, this is Binker Golding. You're listening to Manx Radio. This is the Jumping In show with Chris and H.
There we go. We haven't done that for quite some time. Who'd have thought there was a cover of Mumakata. I must admit, I haven't heard one before. I came across it the other day, yes. So the classic Mumakata from the first Cadona album on ECM back in the 1970s. We've enjoyed that for, 50 years, would you believe, almost, with Colin Walcott, of course, on sitar and tabla and percussion, the great Nana Pascanchelis, the Brazilian percussionist, and Don Cherry on the trumpet, and Thusen Guni, the African hunter's guitar and such like. Followed straight off by a cover of Mumakata, done more recently by another Brazilian percussionist called Saro Baptista, who's been around for quite some time, actually. He's he must be in his 70s, I think, now. He was born in the 1950s, so yeah, he must be pushing that sort of age. I have heard of him. Other than that, I must admit I'm not that familiar with his work. But yes, he works in all sorts of styles, a lot with that Brazilian influence. Makes a lot of his own instruments, apparently, as well, all to his credit. And just have a quick look at who he's played with. Well, you name it. He's played with Nana Vasconcelos, he's played with Mark Ribot, he's played with Herbie Hancock, he's played with Wynton Marsalis, Paul Simon, Yo-Yo Ma, Gato Barbieri, Dr. John, Brian Eno. The list goes on and on and on and on. He's played with basically all the who's who of modern jazz, Brazilian or otherwise. So he's got very good credentials. There with his own band, which is happily called Beat the Donkey, a percussion and dance ensemble. It comes from a Portuguese expression meaning let's do it. Yeah, I suppose let's go, isn't it? Let's go and do it. Haven't done that for a while, really enjoyed that.
So remember, practice, 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 and failing that, come up with a daft name and make your own instruments and you can play with anybody. Now, jazz has long had a love-hate relationship with adding strings, either orchestras or in this case, string quartets, to jazz soloists, duos, trios, quartets, quintets, etc., etc., the so-called third stream, and the incorporation can often be a bit of a curate's egg, as the two sometimes sit alongside each other without really forming any kind of liaison. Well, the key, I think, is in the writing. Here's trumpeter and composer Paul Dietrich and his quintet, along with a string quartet with Spring. Spring, the opener from trumpeter Paul Dietrich's 5+4 album, and I think the proof was in the pudding, as that light and fluffy music souffle proved, opening with just the quintet and then incorporating the strings on a pretty much equal footing. Paul has been leading his quintet since 2012, and that is their third release, with the complex writing really giving both sides something to get their teeth into. He's also led his Paul Dietrich Ensemble Big Band since 2016, and very fine they are too. Paul fills his days in at the music department at Ripon College in Wisconsin, but is regularly on tour with his friends and his bands. 5.4, or 5+4 rather, is due out on the 13th of October.
Not bad.
Yeah, and that's about it for this week's show. But before we go, we've just got time to hear from a live set from the Lydian Collective with the Capitol Orchestra, recorded live at the Cadogan in 2019. Only came out last year, however. Who are they, I hear you cry?
Who are they?
Well, possibly one of the best-known London jazz fusion groups you've never heard of, with over 4 million streams on Spotify, around 2 million YouTubes, and 3 hit albums. There's something of a hit with Aaron Woyler on the keys, Ida Hollis on the bass, Todd Baker on guitar, and Sophie Alloway at the drums, joined here by the 85-strong Capitol Orchestra with Press Start. See you next week.
But they don't tour much.